All right. Hi, guys. I am Abby Warren. I am an Emerald Ambassador with Plexus, and it is October 1st, and I am so excited. We have 90 days until the end of the year. Let's see. I'm so ADD. To meet people. Okay. We have 90 days till the end of the year, and I can think of no better topic for us to start the first week of that 90 days than mindset. And I can also think of no better person to lead us in a mindset call than Justine froelker. A lot of you guys will remember her from convention. She totally killed it, took us to church, inspired us like no other. She is a Brene Brown certified speaker, boss babe, and she has tons and tons of wisdom to share with us. So we are going to give her the next 25 minutes to just tell us whatever she has for us as it relates to mindset, consistency, and persistence. So, Justine, I am going to turn it over to you, and I'll try to manage and keep everybody else muted. Can y'all hear and see Justine?
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Because I have a new mic. It works?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So first off, I am not going to pay attention to the chat until at the end because I'm a wordy bee. So I just talk. So just receive the lesson and then I will get to your questions at the end if we have time. And then obviously I can definitely watch questions once Abby posts the recording. So first off, I always like to tell a little bit about my Plexus story because I feel like my testimony is a little bit different than a lot of people's. And if you ever need a testimony like mine, you can reach out to me. So like I said at convention, I was somebody who did not need or want these products or the business at all. My husband and I went through an infertility journey. I had gained 35 pounds on synthetic hormones. And my body just stopped working completely. The meds stopped working. I was so overweight for my height and just really, really struggling with a lot of things. And so I had a friend recommend to me the blood type diet. And she's like, just read the book if you want to know about the science and just see if it will help. And I read the book and it made sense. And I lost 35 pounds. I kept it off. I had no heartburn for the first time in my life and I was sleeping. And so I was like, this is awesome. I feel great. And then one of my best friends, Sam, started to use Plexus, and she has an incredible testimony along with all of her boys. And she kept bugging me to use Plexus because she wanted to see if I could get more freedom with my food. Because with the blood type diet, you eat based off of your blood type, which I just now, 4 years into Plexus, really started eating what I want. It took me that long to kind of get back into it because I was still sensitive to food based on my blood type. But so she kind of bugged me and I wanted to support her and get her to shut up. So I used Plexus. I started with Triplex and so did my husband. And literally within like a month, the big things that we noticed is he had no more restless leg syndrome. And I no longer crashed in the afternoon when I was still needing to see clients. I was a private practice mental health therapist seeing about 20 to 25 clients a week at the time. And I would always crash between 2 and 3 when I still had like 4 clients to see. And so I noticed right away I didn't crash. And then I also noticed that I wasn't using as much ibuprofen as I used to use. And then I started researching the products and I started using all of our products, especially Ease and Nerve, because I have a pain history. So I've had 2 back surgeries in high school and I have spent a year of my life in a body cast, and I used to live on ibuprofen. And when I say live, I say 4 ibuprofen every 4 hours with no concern to what it was doing to my heart or my digestive tract, whatever, because that's what was needed to deal with the level of pain that I had. And so I started to see a decrease in that with just Triplex, but once I added everything else and just as time passed, I have not had any ibuprofen in 4 years, which is nothing short of miraculous because I obviously still have quite a bit of scar tissue in my body, but I think my inflammation is pretty much gone. And so once I started to like really use all of her products, Sam said, you need to become an ambassador because I'm stealing your money, to which I also fought her on that because, as I said at convention, I had just published my first book. I was seeing 20 clients a week, 20 to 25 clients a week. I did not have time to work network marketing. I also didn't understand what the industry was at all. I thought it was a total scam, and I fought her, but I was like, fine, I'm married to an accountant. I need to save money. So I joined, and I did absolutely nothing for 9 months, which is, I mean, I don't really believe in a ton of regrets. So, but I mean, I don't know where I'd be if I had worked it right away. But once I really started researching the industry and sharing with a couple friends and seeing my paycheck, I started to share. And now I have retired from seeing individual clients after 19 years in traditional mental health. I am publishing my third book here in December. It's coming out, and I am building a ministry, and it's all at this point funded by my Plexus paycheck. And so it's something that it's really, Plexus is helping me to serve the world with my gifts, doing what I love, and really advancing the kingdom, which is what I really want to be doing. And doing what I love. I think that's a big part that a lot of people don't grasp onto or stand in that sacred truth enough. The newest part of which I hide my picture at least 3 times a day. So I know that my Joyome testimony has made its rounds. I have a pretty phenomenal Joyome testimony also. I had started to struggle with hormonal cystic acne for the last 2 years and had tried everything, and nothing was working at all. 2 weeks before Joyome came out, I had started to use Norwex on my face, the Norwex cloths, and that had helped a little bit. And then Joyome came out, and my skin is completely different. It's miraculous. It might be just as miraculous as my ibuprofen testimony. So needless to say, I love Plexus. So I love sharing my story, so tonight I want to talk about a few things, because a little bit more about my story. Which if you follow me on any of the social media platforms, you probably get this sense pretty quickly. I am one of the most persistent and consistent people you may ever meet. And I think it's a big part because of the big parts of my story. And I stopped calling my story hard within the last year, because we will all have traumas, losses, and tragedies in this life. And when we call our stories hard, it doesn't honor it. And so I have a big story, and I believe that we all have big stories. And so within my big story, the story of 2 back surgeries in high school, a year in a body cast, failed infertility treatments, life without my own kids, I have had this lesson instilled in me of never, ever give up. And it's been a lesson, I hate it. You will never, ever, ever hear me say, never, ever give up. Because when you partner my big story with who I am as a resilient, stubborn person, that never give up was quickly destroying me. And I was never giving up on dreams that were not serving me. They weren't serving my sacred truth. They weren't honoring the big parts of my story. They weren't glorifying Him. And so I've moved this to never give up on yourself. And I know it applies to my Plexus business, because when we look at our businesses, your sacred truth, your enoughness, your worthiness, your purpose, your calling does not lie in a rank. It doesn't lie in your paycheck. It doesn't lie in my speaking engagements or a paid publishing contract. Like, that does not lie. None of those things, your happiness, it doesn't lie in the things of this world. It lies in just who you are. Like, you are enough because you are knitted. You are enough because you breathe. You are enough because you serve this world and you love others, and hopefully yourself, because you can't love others unless you love yourself first. And so there's this piece of my story that, like, when people look at my past, the empire that I'm building, A lot of them look at it outside of plexus. A lot of people look at what I'm doing outside of plexus and don't understand that plexus funds a lot of it. And I might be one of the slowest ranking teams ever. I don't know when I will go emerald. It'll be one day. But like, I am finding that when I focus on the persistence and the consistency that it takes to maintain the mindset around my worthiness, it is only then that I honor my truth, that I serve others well, that I stand in my worthiness, and then that like my business grows the most. And it grows from this place of joy and abundance and worthiness, and not this place of scarcity and fear and competition and comparison. And so I want to talk about how that consistency and that persistency in mindset, it needs to apply to your business too. My team, my poor team, I'm struggling. I actually am talking to my coach at corporate, like, how do I help my team to know that they don't have to keep up with someone like me? They don't have to go as fast as me. They don't have to dedicate as many hours as I am dedicating to it. Like, they don't need to do it like me. They need to do it in their style and their truth, because a team of Justines would be terrible, to be honest. Oh my gosh, it would be awful. But like, how do we serve the world, serve our team, work on our persistence and our consistency in our way, in our truth, and not dig ourselves into a hole that we can never come out of because we're so burnt out? And I don't know about you, but coming out of a contest can be really difficult for a lot of people, myself included. This contest was really, really rough for me. And I earned the top prize, and it really, really messed with my mindset. It really didn't serve my mindset at all. And so I've really had to like recalibrate where I have been myself and look at my own mindset. And so that's when Abby was like, what do you want to talk about? I want you to talk about mindset. And I was like, and she goes, what specifically? I was like, I always talk about with my team, like persistency and consistency and messaging and self-care and your IPAs and the mindset. But I want this to be focused on like, what can you do really in your consistency and your persistency with your mindset? And it might be different than what you have read from Rachel Hollis, from Bob Heilig, from John Maxwell, and I love all those people. I love them. I have been a therapist in the field of traditional mental health for 19 years, and I love personal development. I mean, I am usually reading no less than 3 books at a time, listening to as many podcasts. I have usually 2 or 3 devotionals going at a time. I mean, it's ridiculous. I am a seeker. I love resources. You will never have a meeting with me or go to lunch with me without walking out with like a page of notes of people to look up and websites to look at. But what I have really come to learn about the field of personal development, especially when it comes to network marketing, is I believe that it has a weakness, because you can do the affirmations, you can do the mindset work, you can even do the actions that Rachel Hollis is talking about. And I love her. I love that she is like, people are listening to her. That's what I love the most about her. Cause like and she says it, she's not sharing new information. Nobody's sharing new information. It's just in their own voice, and you're receiving it in a different way because you're in a place where you can finally receive it. When it comes to personal development, especially in network marketing, you have to have the affirmations, the mindset, the action, and you have to do the work of knowing how vulnerability and shame function in your life. You have to do the work of your worthiness. Because the minute you stop doing your affirmations, all of those big parts of your stories, or what we used to call the hard parts of your stories, will come back and knock you down. You have to do the worthiness work. You have to do the shame work, because if you don't, there's only so far the action and the mindset will take you. And I believe action kills fear. You're talking to somebody, my alarm will go off at 4:44 tomorrow morning. I am diligent about my self-care, and I'm going to share some of the self-care with you tonight. But like, I love action. Action kills fear. It is what will move you through fear. I don't believe in fearless. You need your fear. It's what's going to inspire you to take the next step to make a change in your life. You have to move through it. You have to cope with it in a healthy way. You have to take action for something to change. And you have to do the mindset work. But if you are not doing the underlying story, worthiness, shame work, it will come crumbling down or you'll burn out, because the actions and the mindset take discipline. And if you're not doing the other side of that, it gets old doing discipline, especially when it doesn't feel like it's making a difference. And so when I talk about beyond mindset, there's a lot of, I love researchers. And so one of the researchers, grab a pen because I love books. I have a huge resource on my website page, but Vishen Lakhiani, his book is The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. I won't say it because there might be kiddos listening, but I love his video. And Abby, I will send you his video. It's kind of like a 45-minute summary of some of his work. But I learned about Marissa Peer from Vishen Lakhiani. Marissa Peer is a therapist over in the UK. She has a pretty decently famous TED Talk called The Disease of Humanity. Her whole theory is that we have to lie to our brain to cheat fear and steal back our happiness. It's kind of the idea of affirmations. So I know that all of us Plexus ambassadors are telling our teams to record your affirmations on the Think Up app. Look in the mirror and say your affirmations to yourself for 5 minutes every morning. And I mean make eye contact. I mean, I'm a therapist with 19 years of experience, and it took me 3 weeks of looking myself in the eye for 5 minutes every morning, telling myself that I am enough, I am worthy, and I am safe without crying. And I'm trained with Brene Brown. That's how ingrained your not enoughness is. And so that's what I mean. We have to go beyond the affirmations. But Marissa Peer talks about, you have simply the act of I am enough. I am enough. You have to speak it out loud. You have to lie to your brain, because your brain's going to tell you every day that you're not enough. We live in a world that tells us we're not enough every single day. You're not pretty enough. You're not rich enough. You're not successful enough. You're not a good enough mom. You're not a good enough wife. You are not enough. And then I'm willing to bet that you go to bed at night, every single night, without your to-do list done. So then on top of that not enoughness, you tell yourself that you're not enough. So there is power in lying to yourself that you're enough. Here's the key piece though. I don't need you to believe it right away. I don't. I just need you to tell yourself that you're enough. I don't need you to believe it right away. I do need you to do the actions to back it up. So I always say, I choose every single day to practice my self-love and the actions of my self-care. Because when I started on this journey 5-6 years ago, at the end of failed infertility treatments, when I was in the deepest, darkest hole of my life, before I found Plexus, when I could hardly get out of bed and cry, I had to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other. And I sure as hell did not love myself, even though I was a therapist with 12 years of experience. And so I chose to practice my self-love in the actions of my self-care. And I lied to myself and told myself that I was enough. So that lying and the affirmations is huge. But on top of that is knowing how vulnerability and shame functions in your life. If you don't know how shame and vulnerability function in your life, they are ruling your life. I've done tons of trainings on the vulnerability piece at this point for Plexus, and so they're all over my YouTube channels. I've done them for lots of jewels at this point, but I never ever miss a chance to kind of do a quick training on shame and vulnerability. So shame is I am bad. Guilt, I did something bad. Shame is focused on self. Guilt is focused on behavior. Vulnerability is emotional exposure, risk, and uncertainty. And when you put yourself out there in your business, in your life, because you can't just put yourself out there in your business and not in your life. It has to be both. That's the wholehearted, authentic life. You will experience shame. You're going to experience judgment and criticism. You cannot go out into this world, especially in your Plexus business, and try to be perfect and be perfect enough to escape shame, blame, criticism, and judgment. It doesn't work. And it means even more and hurts even more when it means stuff to us, when we're putting it on the line about something that we really care about in a vulnerable, authentic way, and we then are shamed, blamed, criticized, or judged. It's going to hurt worse. And so you better understand how shame and vulnerability functions in your life so you can get your butt back up when you fall down. One of those other pieces of that is knowing that you're enough no matter what. I say it a lot, like, when I say I'm not my big story, I am not my traumas, losses, and tragedies. I refuse to be those things. I am the rise from those things. I am how I respond to my life. I am always enough because I breathe. I am enough because I am knitted by my Father. You are enough no matter what your traumas, losses, and tragedies tell you, no matter what the stories you tell yourself tell you, you are enough. And so when I was kind of coming up with this list of the things to be persistent and consistent on, I came up with 5 things. So number 1, that diligent mindset. And it's not just I'm enough, or I am a diamond ambassador. Like, it's not just those things. Those things are huge and they're important, and I want you to practice them on a daily basis. But when I say diligent mindset, I mean this energy. Just like I said at convention, I am living my life from this place of, it is on its way. I must only get ready for it. And while I'm getting ready for it, I'm going to be grateful for the desert. I'm going to be grateful for the struggle. I'm going to be grateful for how much I'm growing and learning while I'm in the wait. This diligent mindset means that you are constantly asking yourself, what is the story I'm making up? So that's the mantra from the Brene work that I'm trained in. So now I just got a new certification with her. It's called Dare to Lead. I'm certified Dare to Lead facilitator. So that's her new book's coming out soon, next week, Dare to Lead. But we ask ourselves, what is the story I'm making up? When you are triggered by a situation, you are going to choose to get curious about those emotions rather than offload them in an unhealthy way, and ask yourself, what's the story I'm making up? What's this really about? What's this bringing up for me? What's in my control to change? How do I respond and not just react? You not only affirm all of those positive affirmations that we talk about in Plexus, you also ingrain this dialogue inside yourself of, what's the story I'm making up? Oh crap, I'm totally making up that silence on that post means that was a crappy post, and that I'm a terrible leader and no one cares about what I'm sharing. I don't share good, and you could go, and then shame's gonna take it. So if you've watched any of my stuff, my shame story goes super fast to, you're not enough, you're invisible, no one cares. That's how fast shame will turn a story in your head. And so when we ingrain that, what's the story I'm making up? What's this bringing up for me? What's this really about? We take the power back from the trigger. We take the power back from our old stories. And we then have the choice to rewrite the story. Our emotions don't write the story anymore. We get to rewrite them. The other piece about being diligent in the mindset part, and oh, good Lord, I'm working on this myself right now. It's really checking the lies that you tell yourself, especially when you are using the words always and never and no one. You check those lies. Like, no one's working this business with me. No one's motivated. I did that all by myself. Or like for me right now, my coach just totally checked me on this. She's like, you literally just said, like, I'm not getting paid for any speaking engagements. And how quickly your victim mindset, those old traumas, losses, and tragedies will hold on to that story, and shame will then take it, and you're down in the pit all of a sudden. And she's right. I just got paid for a speaking engagement. God provided more than I ever dreamed. And so when I said, I'm not getting paid for any speaking engagements, victim will take that in a second, and I'm in the pits. I'm no longer writing my story. My victim mindset is my traumas are writing the story, and I'm in the dark. And that doesn't honor my truth. I'm not standing in my sacred truth at that point. And so when I say be diligent about that mindset, it's that piece too. The second part that I always talk about is no more black and white thinking. So if you have seen my first TED Talk, it's called The Permission of the And. I've tweaked the permission of the and since a year ago at this point, but The permission of the and is this idea that like when we give ourselves permission to walk into the muck and the mess, into the complicated gray, that space between two opposing emotions. We've been taught that there are opposing emotions. We've been taught that life exists in these check boxes, either or, black and white, easy, hard. People are messy and life is complicated. And when you give yourself permission to walk into the muck and the mess, the gray, you give yourself permission to feel more than one emotion at the same time. It is there that your clarity and your magic lie. And I do realize that if you watched Rachel Hollis's live today, that she spoke opposite to that, because I had like 5 people message me about it today. But like, I know that this applies to your plexus business. It applies, number one, because I think one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that you have to be all in all the time with your plexus business. If you're not working 4 hours a day, you're going to work no hours a day. And that's a lie that your brain tells you, because our brain tries to keep us very comfortable in the black and the white and the check boxes. It wants to stay comfortable. So it's going to self-sabotage you to stay in the either or. Because the complicated gray, the permission of the and, is really uncomfortable. It's also where I know so much of our power lies. It is, though, it's a tool. It's not a place to stay stuck. Because I've heard this on my team. So I've had a lot of my team do my training with, like, do the actual Brene training with me, and they're tortured with me all the time. So they have to get my teachings all the time, but like they will say like, well, I'm just really overwhelmed, which I don't really allow that word anymore in my life. And my team knows that I don't like to hear it. I'm really overwhelmed, and I really want to work my plexus business, but I'm really overwhelmed. I need to honor my feelings. And so I'm going to stay stuck and not do anything. You can be overwhelmed and cope with those emotions in a healthy and effective way, and choose to not give that emotion complete power and choose action. It is that piece of like, well, that sucked, and this is what I'm going to do different now, versus this sucks and I'm going to stay in it because I'm going to honor my emotions, or I just have too much on my plate. And again, if you want to take it like what we always teach in Plexus, that's when you then remind people that that excuse, that hard in their life, is the very reason why they need to be working their plexus business. I did a training for my team a couple of weeks ago, and I had them write down like their top 10 things that they love the most in their life. And then I had them asterisk which ones plexus serves. Plexus can help them do more of in their life. And when we're really honest with ourselves, it's probably all of them. And so it's really being honest with ourselves with like that mindset of, can I give myself permission to feel it all and not stay stuck in it, but rather use it as a tool? Because I don't believe in balance. I believe balance is just undulating between the extremes. And when you're trying so hard to find a balance, you're probably on the either or, versus finding this middle messy gray area. And the middle is a mess. And it is where healing happens, and it is where action happens, and where your truth will be found. The third place, I always talk about self-care. If you do follow my public Facebook page, I share self-care tip of the day every day. I have several self-care online programs that I do, because when I was in the deepest dark of my life after failed infertility treatments, I had to figure out how to love myself and dig my way out of self-care. And I know for sure people are allowing their plexus business to overwhelm them so much, or their life to overwhelm them so much, that then they avoid their plexus business, and then they practice self-care by zoning out or decompressing, which is really numbing. Because the Netflix and the wine and the binge and the ice cream, like, it won't love you back. And I'm all for a good Netflix binge, but it needs to be filling your soul up, not a way to escape and numb out and avoid. And I don't think we talk about the self-care component in this plexus business enough. And that's why we have so many people burning out, because this is hard. Most people don't start Plexus as their only gig. They're trying to fit it in the nooks and crannies, in which case it's usually the first thing to go because it feels easier to binge on Netflix or wine or ice cream. And so like, there's that check of like modeling for your team and for your family to pour into yourself so that you have more to give. That is how you're going to have the firm foundation to choose the positive mindset when you're in the trenches, when you're in the end of a contest, or when you're really struggling in a low month. Because if you've been taking care of yourself and filling yourself up, one, you have something to actually give to your team and to your family. But two, when it really gets hard, you have reserves. The well isn't dry. You must choose to take care of yourself. That is part of this diligent and like very persistent and consistent mindset work. Number 4 is living wholeheartedly. So if you've ever read any of Brene Brown's stuff, if you've never read any of her stuff, I always recommend that people start with the Gifts of Imperfection, and that she has 10 guideposts for wholehearted living. It is how, like, living your life wholeheartedly on a consistent and persistent basis is how you will serve well. And we know that this business is about serving well. Living wholeheartedly means that you can sustain your work. You can sustain giving so much to other people. Living wholeheartedly means that you honor yourself. You stand in your sacred truth. You say no when you need to say no. You set boundaries. You say yes when you need to say yes. You model what you want to see. You choose abundance and joy versus scarcity and fear and shame. And when you do get stuck in that fear and scarcity and shame, you check it and you go back to number 1 and you ask yourself what the story is you're making up or what this is bringing up for you. Living wholeheartedly means that you stand in your sacred truth, practicing courage skills, taking care of yourself, and you don't numb away your life with work, including your Plexus business or Netflix or whatever else. Living wholeheartedly means that you walk in this world every single minute of the day, and every person who leaves you is wondering, whatever she has, I want that for myself, and I believe I can have it. What is that? Whether or not that's Plexus or Jesus or self-care or all of it, whatever it is. That's what wholehearted living is. And when you do it on a diligent basis, on a daily basis, with persistency and consistency, you practice vulnerability, you check your shame stories, you will be able to serve your team more. You won't burn out so quickly. And that mindset of like all the noise in the world doesn't feel so overwhelming, because you're going to be able to say, that's why I did this, because I am living wholeheartedly. But none of it happens without showing up. And sometimes showing up in front of the people who love us most, including our team, is the toughest. That's where a lot of this work comes in. So that's where the vulnerability practices come in. And that's where the shame stuff comes in. So I'm actually over time and I've talked the whole time, and that's my points. But like, so I think the biggest piece that I want you to take away is that like, your persistency and your consistency is not just in IPAs. It's not just in affirmations. It is in doing the hard work, messy work of knowing, how do you show up in your business? How do you show up in your family, in your life? And if you don't like it, let's change it. And when you stumble and you fall flat on your face, which if you're living wholeheartedly in a vulnerable way, you will fall down and fail. What is your value? What are your clarity of values to help you get back up and rise? Because that's got to be part of the persistence too. Because if you're doing this business right, you're falling down a lot. A lot. So that's what I have. I mean, I have tons of resources. If you don't follow me on Facebook, please I have a public page, and then I have my personal page. I have an online course that I put Brene Brown's work into an online course for network marketers. If you want that, I will send Abby a coupon code for you guys. Also, I have 2 self-care programs that I'll send her coupon codes for too, that you can get them a little bit cheaper. And I obviously have a couple books on Amazon and random t-shirts and whatever. But so that's what I got.
Oh, thank you so much. One of the things that I love about this business is that we all come into this with a story and a background, and we bring all this baggage into Plexus. And I, I feel like 99.9% of us, if you've been here for a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever, um, you it's almost impossible to do this business and engage with this amazing group of people and not be on a personal growth journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a huge Brene Brown fan. I changed my Instagram name to Wholehearted Mom because I just felt like the wholehearted living thing just really captured my
Mm-hmm.
heart. Cannot recommend her books enough. Gifts of Imperfection, amazing. I will say Rising Strong. Everybody said read that last. It's my absolute favorite.
That's my favorite.
Rising Strong will rock your world. It will take your business to a new level. It will empower you like nobody's business. And I think the overarching theme that I'm hearing from you, Justine, is that life is a roller coaster. Your business is a roller coaster, and you have to find a way to maintain your joy and your sanity through all of it, and know that there's going to be highs and lows, but your successes, or your perceived successes in life and in your business, that is not who you are. For me right now, the people and the relationships from my team and in this business and the people that I'm impacting, to me, that is my goal. It's not a rank, it's not a paycheck. And there is nothing wrong with having a paycheck goal or a rank goal or anything like that. But I'm telling you, if you stick with this, if you stick with this group of people, um, you will be on a personal growth journey like no other. And give it a couple years, dig in with all of us. I feel like a lot of us are really on the same page, and you're going to grow yourself. And whether you grow a huge team and an amazing business with Plexus or not, you're going to grow as a person. You're going to be a better friend, a better mom, a better wife, just a better person overall. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I love hearing everybody's unique story. I feel like everybody has value to bring to the table. And so we really treasure your time away from your family and away from your personal business. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, we will be looking forward to paying it forward, and whatever coupons or whatnot, I will pass them along, and we look forward to following you on your Plexus journey and your author journey and all those things. So thank you, Justine.
Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Great night. And like I said, I'm recording this, so I will post the recording probably tomorrow after it's uploaded. Okay.
Thanks, Abby.
Bye guys. See you later.